Good afternoon. And on behalf of our principal investigator, Dr. Linda Goggin, and myself, welcome to the National Family Support Technical Assistance Center's Office Hours running series. Today's topic is Person-Centered Resources and Natural Supports, Strength-Based Relationship Building. I'm Gail Cormier, the Project Director of NASDAQ, the Family Center of Excellence. We are led by the National Federation of Families. This Office Hours series is designed with the family workforce in mind, preparing the family peer workforce for systems transformation and authentic family partnerships. This is going to be the topic for the whole series until June. We'll focus on supporting the family peer workforce each month. A subject matter expert, usually a family peer specialist, will introduce one of the 5 core competencies for FPSs. And this will count. These hours will count to your national certification. So remember to keep that participation certificate when you receive it. Before we start our interactive conversation today, I would like to go over a few housekeeping items. Today's conversation is being recorded. The recording and any additional resources will be uploaded to our NASDAQ website under the Events tab. If you have any technical difficulties, please type your comments and someone will be able to assist you. Please also type your questions for the presenter in the chat box. We'll be watching the chat during the entire presentation and we'll collect those questions. So when it's time to ask the questions, we'll have some written down, but that does not preclude you for taking the mic off and asking questions on your own. Our goal for office hours is to encourage a conversation between our guest presenters and all those in attendance. We encourage you to ask questions that will assist you in your daily work. This is your office hours. If you can use the raise your hand button, that would be helpful. NASDAQ hopes you leave this event invigorated and with new ideas to help you do your work. We ask that you take time to complete a short feedback survey using the link provided at the end of this presentation. The survey will help us continuously improve our events, and it also fulfills our SAMHSA funding obligation. And what will happen is, as you leave today's event, it'll take you right to the participation certificate, right to the survey, and after the survey, you should go right to the participation certificate. Please note, all information will be confidential, and we will respect your privacy. We do not offer CEU credits for our events, but you will receive a certificate of attendance after the survey is completed. I would like to thank SAMHSA for allowing us to share this information with you today, and thank you all for joining us. At this time, I would like to introduce NASDAQ Project Manager for this series, Dana Asby. Dana will also be introducing our great guest speakers today. Dana?
Thank you, Gail. So as Gail mentioned, this office hours series is designed for family peer specialists to really prepare you to do systems transformation and form partnerships with families. So we hope that this time together will help you build the skills that the 5 core competencies have that best support families through the lifespan. So that's families of youth, but also families of adult children as well. We also hope that this series will inspire you to challenge the systems by advocating for family-driven language, care, policies, and systems, and to provide tools and opportunities for learning, but both by hearing some of the great things the subject matter experts have to say and also being in conversation with each other towards the end of the event today. So we had a wonderful session in December on wellness and resiliency that you can find on our YouTube page. We had another great session on affecting change that's also on our YouTube page or the NASDAQ events website. And today we'll be talking about resources and natural supports with Akia Compton and Anna Jure from MIKID. Then join us next month for another office hour about systems knowledge and navigation. And then we'll have 2 office hours on professional responsibilities as well. Today, we have some specific learning objectives for you. First, we're going to talk about why person-centeredness is a key to acceptance of mental health and our substance use challenges, and that might come out during our discussion today. We'll also hear a little bit about how equitable access to resources is a social justice issue. We hope that you'll leave here with tools and strategies you can take right into your work supporting families to help them identify natural supports and strengths and share resources with families. We also hope that we'll be able to have a discussion about how resources for those over the age of 26 vary from the resources we provide families for younger loved ones. So before we get started, we'd love to hear a little bit about your use of informal resources when you're supporting families. So we're going to share a Mentimeter poll. You can either, once it's launched through the app, you can either hit the join button, that should happen momentarily, or you can also go to www.menti.com and type in the code that Lachelle put there in the chat. That's also on the slides. And let us know, what are some of the informal resources that you use for the families that you support? You should be able to type right there into Mentimeter. Oh, church, great example. Grandparents providing respite, yes. Those are two great examples. Coworkers are helpful. School resources, support networks, friends, neighbors, colleagues, spiritual, family members, church, prayer, meditation, Boys and Girls Club. These are all such great examples.
Some people are writing in the chat, rec centers and gyms and PCP.
I'm not sure what PCP stands for. Got neighbors, library, yes. White Flag app, NAMI. Oh, primary care provider, PCP. Yes, thank you. Church, library, excellent. All right, well, if you haven't entered yet, you still can have time, and we'll share the full list of these with the slides that go out at the end of our event. But now I'm really delighted to introduce you to our wonderful subject matter experts this month. First, we've got Akia Compton, who is the Vice President of Programs and Operations for Youth and Family Services. She's had a very active career in youth services, and she has touched so many different behavioral health and related systems. So she is quite a wonderful expert to talk about all of the wonderful resources we have. And then we have Anna Jure, who has is the Parent Support Now State Coordinator for MIKID, and I encourage you to look up that program. It's very interesting. And she has also had a long career working in social services and actually started the Parent Support Now program in 2015. So go ahead and look both Akia and Anna up to learn more about their wonderful work. But I want to pass the time on to them to learn together.
Hello, everyone. I'm glad everyone's on this call. So my name is Akia, like she just said, I'm the Vice President of Programs and Operations. And I've been with Mike here for about 11 years. And then Anna, you want to introduce yourself?
Sorry, I wouldn't unmute. I'm Anna Jure. I've been with MIKID. I'm going on my 14th year. I'm glad to be here, and hopefully we can give you some good information going forward.
Next slide. So we are primarily in Arizona and also Colorado, but we service the entire state, which is about 79 counties. And then in Colorado, we can go to the next slide. We are actually in the yellow areas that's highlighted, and then also the blue. We'll actually be moving towards the entire state by next year. So that's where we're at right now in Colorado. Next slide. We specialize in youth peer support. We do, we're the only organization in Arizona that actually offers youth peer support, and that we actually tailor it towards young adults. I know it's done in other states, but we do it here. Also, we specialize in family support training. That's also certification here in Arizona. And then I'm also a master trainer in active parenting. So we also do that particular training here as well. We also offer mental health first aid and evidence-based curriculum. Next slide. Next slide. Oh, I'm sorry. So also our family support, we utilize the family roadmap, which is an evidence-based practice. And then Ann will talk a little bit where you can look up a little bit more about the Parent Support Now program. Also, we work with transition age youth, 13 to 25. We're the only agency here that actually starts as young as 13. And then also we use evidence-based curriculum. Next slide. We have 7 outpatient licensed sites here in Arizona, and then we have 1 community mental health center in Colorado. And then you can just read over some of the things we do: living skills, TAY, pre-job training. We do youth council groups, youth summits, etc. Right, next slide. Okay, let's get to the nitty-gritty. How to access person-centered resources. So I'm going to be covering I'm going to touch bases on each category, but kind of give you resources on how to get more information in your state. So I'll be talking a little bit about the IEP and the 504, voc rehab, child and adult team meetings, and the behavioral health system, adult and child legal proceedings, juvenile/adult criminal justice system. Excuse me, guys, I'm coming off a cold, so I cough, me too. Department of Safety and Reunification, Housing, the Division of Developmental Disabilities, Social Security, and Natural Supports. I don't know if there's a way you can minimize the screen just a little bit. I can't see everything on here. Okay, next slide. Adequate access to resources and social justice. I want to talk a little bit about that. I'm going to share a little story of what that means to me and what that means to this group. So my son got diagnosed. Can you hear me? I'm from Cleveland, Ohio. So my son got diagnosed at 4 years old. And at that time, the pediatrician just gave me a prescription and said, here's his diagnosis. And that was it. That's all I got. And so that is really devastating for a parent to get that kind of information and then not know what to do with it. So therefore, the lack of understanding of how to navigate community resource system is an injustice. And that is what happens to a lot of our families. They're given this diagnosis and then there you go. And nothing, no tools or resources to help them navigate systems for their child or an adult. Next slide. So this is my favorite. Honestly, even since I've been in the field, this has probably been one of the most challenging departments, not the department itself, but the whole flow has been the most challenging for parents to navigate because they just don't know enough about the IEP and the 504. My recommendation to all parents and any parents you work with is to navigate the Department of Education at their particular state and going to the tab for special education. There is a long flow of the whole process, what needs to happen, what rights the parents have, and then who's involved in that actual process. So I'll just give you a snippet as a little example. So when you go into an IEP, your child's already been tested, and then they're actually formulated an actual individual specialized instruction for your kid. That parent is always involved in that process. It's not the school dictating to the parent what that child needs. The parent is involved. And also, a lot of people don't know your child can be part of that. I highly suggest when you're meeting with parents to have that child. They need to be part of that process and actual any determinations that's going to be made with that child. So again, I would go on Department of Education, follow that flow. Also with the IEP and the 504, there is moderation. There is a portion on their site when you disagree with anything with that process that you can follow, and they will help moderate, and they will actually help moderate between you and the school. And there's also a complaint process as well on that website. So again, any questions on that? You know, I only have so many minutes, but that particular, please have your parents. This is the first thing I would tell any parent that has a child in special education, to really educate them on that whole process on the Department of Education. Any questions so far? All right, next slide. This is also a favorite of mine. Honestly, out of all the years I worked, I didn't know a lot about voc rehab until I actually met with another parent and told me about it. This is very beneficial for youth and adults. My son is 21 years old and he received services from voc rehab. What I didn't know about voc rehab is that they actually pay for college. That is a big resource that I did not know. The only qualification is you have to have a disability. And so, and then they also help with employment. They help with uh, employment services. They actually help with driving services as well. So if your child has a disability and needs accommodations to be able to drive a car, they actually have help with that. So this is another resource. Really have adults and parents navigate. It's an easy process to apply. They'll get a counselor, they'll walk through, they help with the job placement. So this is a really good program. I'm really fond of it. Like I said, my son's been enrolled in it for 3 years. He started with the job placement, but now he's with the education placement. So this is a very good tool for adults who need help, additional help with special needs. Next slide. Now, this is different in every state. Here in Arizona, anytime a child is enrolled in the behavioral health system, there is a meeting that happens that's kind of like wraparound services where everybody's involved. Again, if your parent or whoever you work with or you as a parent are involved in these meetings and you are enrolled in a behavioral health entity, inpatient facility, outpatient facility, you want to make sure that you're involved in this meeting and everybody that you want involved is there. You have a right to say who's involved. You can invite other people. Of course, that team will have people that they want to invite, but this is a team meeting to talk about the coordination of care of your child or adult. And again, I highly suggest that adult, if you have an adult son or a child, that is, if the child is able to comprehend things, to have them involved. I'm a firm believer in having children's voice and youth voice and adult voice and having it part of this child and adult team meeting in the behavioral health system. Next slide. Excuse me. So the juvenile justice system, that's any child under the age of 18 who committed a crime. So the primary goal of the juvenile justice system, believe it or not, is maintaining public safety, skill development, habilitation, rehabilitation, addressing treatment goals, and successfully integration to the youth and to the community. So the juvenile justice goal is not just to say we're going to lock kids up. They are there to help kids help kids with tools so they cannot be in that system. So it's very important as a parent or as someone who's working with a juvenile in that system to be able to work closely with that probation or a parole officer or whoever that may be in that entity to help that youth navigate that system. In the adult system, again, depending on the crime, you could be tried in adult system 16 and over. Again, there's just a couple things you can read. You have a right to attorney, right to cross-examine, right not to incriminate yourself. However, there is some resources I put at the end of this tab. There is something called mental health court. So if that adult has a mental illness, they can go to the mental health court, which may help in reference to sentencing, may help in reference to any actual resources that adult needs. So please, when you look at the resources, please look at the adult mental health portion of that. Next slide. DCS. A lot of people think about DCS as, okay, they remove your children from the home. That's one thing that they will do if there's abuse and neglect allegations and they find it substantiated. However, they do help in other areas. So they do help in getting food, housing, clothing, and medical care, intensive family preservation services, parent aid services, daycare, parenting skills. So there are other resources that Department of Safety actually offers. So again, meeting with your families is not just that one side of removing children from the home. You can't contact DCS or Department of Health Safety or whatever the entity is called in your state to help with some of those categories with your families. Thank you. Next slide. Housing. So housing is a big one. A lot of our youth that become 18 become homeless. So we really want to look at housing before they turn 18. So some of the examples I gave here was Job Corps, which is a big one, building connections with your shelters in your community, military, talk to recruiters, college housing. Again, if they're going to, that's for example, Voc Rehab, that is in that umbrella where the housing can be included in the payment that they help with, one of the services they help with. Supportive housing throughout the state. Each state has a Section 8. So I know some Section 8s have waiting lists. However, if you're a veteran, that you jump straight to the top of the list. And then also domestic violence. Another one is housing vouchers. Some states have housing vouchers, so you probably want to make sure you research any housing vouchers. There's a ton of utility assistance programs. Some of the churches, I know here we dial 211 will give you different entities for utility assistance programs. And actually, if they contact some of the electric companies, they actually will put down different entities that will help with assistance, as well as gas, as well as water. Talking to rental property is another one. Also, foster care funding. There is funding out there for foster care housing and assistance. So please, research your state to find out what funding is offered in the foster care system. And talk to charities that can assist with rent and utilities. Next slide. Division of the developmental disability is another one my son was enrolled in, so I'm pretty familiar with this process as well. There are certain categories that the youth have to fall under to actually be able to be enrolled in DDD, and these are some of the categories. And once you go onto the website for your state, it also has some subcategories, which you, excuse me, which you will see. It's an easy process again. And they can help with long-term care. They can help with, they could do some habilitation. So they have a lot of different early intervention. So there's a lot of different things that fall under that umbrella. So please log on to that site if your child is in any of these categories or is under the age of 3 and is showing signs of developmental delays. Next slide. Social Security. I'm gonna hand this over to Anna. She has a lot of experience in Social Security. So Anna.
Good afternoon. One of the things that you need to know, and it's a huge thing with Social Security, if you have a disabled child that falls into the categories and falls under the DDD program with their long-term care, they are automatically eligible to apply for Social Security disability at that time. So a lot of people are not aware that if their child is approved for DDD services, they can automatically apply for benefits right then and there. And the benefits start from the day you apply. So it's really important that once you get that approval from disability, to go ahead and contact Social Security. This goes for kids in the foster care system along with children that are in the home. So it goes both ways. A provider can apply as long as the guardian gives approval. Go ahead, and I think that pretty well.
And then also just to add, in the adult system, again, if you log into your Social Security website in your state, I've done multiple states. It's a pretty easy process. It tells you how you qualify, what you need to qualify. Everything is pretty simple steps. So again, I can't go over the qualification because it could be different in certain, not different in certain states. The criteria they look at sometimes can be a little stringent. So again, if an adult needs to apply for Social Security, please, they have all the qualifications and what you need to, how you qualify for Social Security disability.
Anna and I hate to interrupt, but there's an important question that I think is relevant now. Is Social Security disability parent income driven?
It is. Not for the child, but for the adult it is. So if it's, am I right? I'm sorry, Anna, I don't mean to cut you off, but for a child, no. Go ahead, Anna, I'll let you add to that.
Adult disability will depend on assets that the adult has. They're allowed certain things that are not counted in their income. They can work actually part-time in some instances if it is to give them the benefit of possibly having some extra income and being successful in the community. So yes, it's counted. It's depending on the income, it can be deducted from the Social Security benefit, but it's not going to take it away. And that's the thing most people don't know. There are certain assets you are allowed to have. There are certain assets you are not. And each time you contact Social Security, they can go over that very clearly. If you go on to Social Security, US Gov, it will give you the qualifications you need and what is necessary.
Thank you.
SSI for the child is not based on the parent's income. My daughter has been getting Social Security since she was 16. Until her father passed away, it was taken out of his Social Security benefits. Once he passed away, they became her own, even though she had never worked in her life.
I'm sorry to interrupt. SSI is when the child SSI is just a glorified welfare. That's based on
Sorry, I read the question wrong. I'm trying to read this at the bottom.
Okay, SSI is just a glorified welfare. So that's based upon your income of your household.
I didn't hear, she went mute.
Oh, all right. Well, we'll get back to Raylene's soon. Go ahead, Akia.
I'm sorry, I disconnected.
Okay.
Oh,
I can finish if you like.
Okay, yeah, please.
Okay, SSI is just based up on when children get SSI. That's I call it a glorified welfare system, right? Because if the parents are low income, they give them that extra support of income, which right now in the state of New York is about $900. So that's to support the child. SSDI, however, that's what takes in out of our pay. So if your child becomes disabled, then they are entitled to that and they will get that. Right now, if your income is still very low and but you work, your child is eligible for both SSI and SSDI. They will get two separate checks, usually on the 1st and the 3rd of the month.
that is wonderful, wonderful information. And that's why I love it when we go back and forth. I bet you're going to be very valuable when we open up for questions too. Thank you so much.
That's good to know. I'm not a big I don't know a lot about Social Security, but that's good to know. Thank you.
Those are two entirely different programs. Social Security Disability and SSI, which is Supplemental Security Disability, are actually two different ones. And that, yes, is definitely generated by the income of the family.
Well, I appreciate the two-way conversation. Please continue.
Thank you. Next slide. Anna, this on you.
I think your opening question with natural supports was great, and the idea of all of the people that came in with coworkers, church, grandparents, the girls and boys clubs, libraries, neighbors, primary care providers, coaches, and even their teachers. We have a lot of families that, surprisingly enough, the teachers are more of a natural support than the extended family is. What I have found with doing this over the years is one of the problems with using families, immediate families, as natural supports is a lot of times the parent does not want their immediate family to know just how bad things are or what they're going through. And they were more comfortable confiding in the neighbor or someone at church, or even the coach with the athletic sports. So if you get resistance from a parent to confide in their family, 9 times out of 10, it's because they're embarrassed that they are having a problem. Go with any support you can get. When you're talking to the parents, ask them who they talk to, who they would go to if they had a problem. We have to keep in mind that we are support teams, but we are not natural supports. One of the big jobs that we have in family support is to literally work ourselves out of a job and get these families with people that are going to be with them for the long term, whoever that may be. If we direct them to their church, to a community service, if it's the grandparents, a lot of times the senior groups will support that family and give the grandparents some ideas and end up sticking with them. Basically, anybody that they are willing to talk to can become a natural support, and that's what we want to encourage. Go ahead, Akia. Akia,
Next
you want to
slide.
go to the next slide?
Sorry, muted. Here's some resources you guys want to click on and get more information. You can also reach out to me individually if you wanted to know more about like the different categories. We only get 20 minutes, so but if you have more, questions about like the IEP, the 504, the voc rehab, or any help navigating that system, please don't hesitate to contact the Federation and then contact me. Thank you.
All right, so now before we open up for some conversation, we want to hear from you about which of the formal resources that Kia and Anna just shared with us are new to you. So another Mentimeter is going to pop up on your screen in just a minute with that invitation to join. And we'll also put the address and the code back into the chat if you want to go that way. So this one, you're going to rate each of these resources. If it's totally new to you, you would keep the bar towards the left side of the screen. If you're an expert in this resource, you would slide that bar over towards the right-hand side of the screen or anywhere in between. We're just curious with how familiar you are with each of these resources that were discussed today. All right, so we've got some numbers coming in. Looks like people are more familiar with housing so far. We've got a lot of people who've rated the justice system resources. We've got a lot of people who know about voc rehab, IEP. Got some folks who are very well versed in behavioral health team meetings. Got some DDD resource experts, or at least know a little bit about it. Very interesting. Well, keep voting, and you can kind of see that bar graph behind that shows the frequency of where people rated.
I have a question. Is it because it looks blurry on mine? Is it like 4.1 or is it 6? Is it whole numbers?
So I think that's like the rating between 0 to 10.
Okay,
so
okay.
It's averaging like everybody's ratings. So as a group, we're at 5.4 for justice system. So we're like right in the middle. It's not new to us, but we're not experts. It looks like that's kind of where most of our medians are, is like right in the middle. So this is new to some of us. Some people are experts, but we've got a lot of IEP and behavioral health team meeting experts in the room. Great.
Sorry.
All right, well, I'll pass it off to Gail to lead us on to the next portion of our time together.
Let's all join us, and if you feel comfortable enough, let's turn on your cameras, take off the mute, and let's ask questions, because this is the time to learn, especially about Social Security and Social SSDI. That was very, very interesting. But do you have any questions for Akia or Anna or any one of us? Because we all have knowledge here because we're all in the field. So I want this to be a back and forth. Ask the questions, and if you have a better answer than I do, please raise your hand and fill it in because we're all learning. Hey, were you asking a question? Did I see? No, maybe not. Any questions?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Are you familiar with the ABLE account for people with SSI and SSDI?
Anna, that would go to you.
I'm sorry, I am not. I do not recognize that at all.
Are you familiar with the ABLE?
Yeah, a little bit. I'm doing a lot of research on it. The ABLE account was established, I can't remember the year now, in the lower 48. I'm in Alaska, and we've just agreed to use it, I think about 5 years ago. The ABLE account is something that people with SSI, SSDI are able to now save money in an ABLE account, and it is harmless. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I've heard of that too. I just thought it was called something else. Yeah.
It's called something else. Stephanie will get to you in 1 second. That is a different name for every state. But yes, in fact, you can put it away without being penalized. And you have to specify what you want to use that for. For instance, if you want, someone had mentioned if you you can't have 2 vehicles or you're disqualified. That's very true in a lot of states, not just Missouri. But what you could do, if you needed a second car or you needed a vehicle, you could start, in your state is called the ABLE account. You can start this account penalized free and start saving money for that specific thing that you need to advance yourself in work or in health. And now, if you'd like more information on this, we can do some research and we can actually send it out to you when we send the slides with the other resources. Stephanie, do you have a question?
No, I just wanted to say we have an ABLE account for our son, and he does not receive either SSDI or SSI. So I don't know if that's a statewide thing, but he has an ABLE account.
Are you from Alaska?
No, I hate to say where I'm from. I live in Idaho, but I'm not from here.
Okay. Well, actually, that's very good for Idaho. Is it helpful? Do you find it valuable?
Well, we're not using it right now because it's for when it's basically for when we're gone. It's part of the way we see it is we have a trust fund for him, but it's going to be used for like you just said, housing, working, transportation, things like that. And Idaho doesn't have its own ABLE account. We had to get one from Montana when we were getting it, but they may have changed that law that now you can get another one, but it might be from Wyoming. You can see why I'm not happy to say.
Well, you know what? It sounds like we need to do a lot more investigation.
Yes.
And we are the Technical Assistance Center. So you know what? We're going to do some research and we'll send it out with the rest of the resources on here. Anyone else with another question?
This is Anna. I think every state has a different name for it. And some states, they have to be very specific of what that money is being saved for. And it can't be pulled out for any other reason. So you have to be kind of careful with what you're saying you're going to use it for. If an emergency happens and you want to pull it out and it's to save for a car, and you want to pull it out because you suddenly want to go on a trip somewhere, you're not going to be able to do it. So you need to check each state regulations on what their regulations for the savings account are.
That's good to know. And as I'm looking and trying to do some quick research, it sounds like there are similar accounts called able accounts that are geared to do what we were talking about. And there is one that's specific out of SSI that can be called able or can be
Hello,
called
Ellen.
something else.
Oh, I'm surviving.
Hi, Maria. Okay, do we have any other questions today? Akia, there were a couple of questions that came up about voc rehab. And one of them was, do you need a certificate of disability to register for voc rehab? Oh, Akia, you're on mute.
Sorry, I'm just saying the whole sentence. So yeah, it could be anything. It could be your IEP. If the child was on an IEP before they turned 18, you can turn in the MET. And that's the testing that they do. You can turn in documentation from your doctor, therapist, or a letter. Anything that any professional that can say they had a diagnosis. So it's not just yeah. And actually, I was really excited to talk about rehab because I really learned a lot about it within this last 2 years. So just not even, and I want to say this, to get your child's or adult's education or youth paid for college, they do not look at your income. Only thing they look at your income, only thing that they won't provide for him is books because of my income. But his education is 100% paid. So
that's fabulous.
But the only
I also know that they can get you a computer, depending on your
computer, car. There's a kid that who didn't who has legs was amputated, so they actually paid for the accommodation for his car so he can drive
all the time.
And then also with voc rehab, they have to go to a junior college first before they transfer to a 4-year college. I didn't mention that because I didn't have a lot of time, but yeah. So yeah, so
voc rehab is amazing.
It's amazing.
Jeannie, I know you had your hand up and I see a question in here, but do you have another question?
No, that was actually it. It was exactly what you had said.
Go into your whatever state. If it's Virginia, you go Virginia Vocational Rehab and it'll pop up. Every state has a voc rehab. All 50 states and the territories all have the same exact rules. So what we're saying here about voc rehab, it pertains to everyone. You have to come and register for voc rehab. And you do have to have proof of disability, but it could be you could be blind in one eye. It does not have to be a mental health or substance use disability, although that's what we specialize in here, but it could be any disability. For instance, my sister had a club foot and she had voc rehab for that helped her go through college. And all the rules have stayed the same for the last 30 to 35 years. It's a wonderful tool for us to use in our tool chest, not only as parents, but it's also a resource that we use as a family peer specialist.
Can I add something to that? And I didn't provide it, and maybe I'll just send it over to you. You can send out to everyone. There's another program once they're in voc rehab and once they get into college, there's a program called WRP, Workforce. And if you have a disability, and you do have to actually get the official letter, and you can, and typically I use the voc rehab letter. So voc rehab will issue you a state letter. And this helps kids with disabilities and adults get into federal jobs. And they work with them. My son had an interview and when he graduates this semester, he's probably gonna have a federal job. So it's so many tools out there for our adults and kiddos out there. Again, I didn't add that one because I didn't think about it until we start talking about voc rehab. So sorry. But yeah, so that's another tool. Thank you for sending that.
Well, that is really good. Any other questions?
So I have a question. In the state of Missouri, we have the pre-employment transition services. So it kind of like is a pipeline into our vocational rehab so we can get kiddos started at age 14. Is that nationwide? Does everybody have that?
Totally nationwide, everybody has it.
Okay, awesome.
When you talk about voc rehab too, you have to remember a couple of little things. I'm a certified rehab counselor. That's my background is all voc rehab. You have to remember the language of vocational rehab, and vocational rehab's language is all about work. So whenever you go to voc rehab, you have to make sure you phrase anything about the end result is work. For instance, you can't just say, my child wants to be an artist. I want her to go to art school. They would say, well, we don't do that. What you have to say is, my child wants a job as an artist and needs to be educated by going to school to get an art degree.
That's true.
And so if you have to always remember, put it in the terms of work. I have been with families and we've wanted a supported work person, someone to support their son to do a job. And I've heard the parents say, oh, my son needs someone to be next to them so they can make better decisions. And I saw the voc rehab person go, well, we don't do that. And I said, no. He needs someone to help him and train him for his job at his job so he can make better work decisions. So always remember to keep that phrasing correct. Any other questions? Oh, Dana, do you want to go on with the slides?
Sure. All right, we'll give you a little bit of your time back today. And we're excited to offer 2 upcoming office hours. First, in March, we have one that's going to be more about navigating the systems and having understanding of all of the knowledge that you need to successfully navigate them. So Akia and Anna today talked about a lot of the resources that the systems have. But next month, we're going to talk about what it looks like when family peer support is used in different systems. So we're going to have 3 speakers come on. Ebony Chambers is an instructor at UC Davis Center for Family Focused Practice, and she's going to talk about what it looks like when family peers are helping families navigate the child welfare system. Margot Pierce, a parent support partner statewide coordinator at the Association of Children's Mental Health in Michigan, is going to talk about what it looks like when you are helping family members of adults navigate adult systems related to behavioral health. And then we're going to have a 3rd speaker who is going to talk about navigating the justice system. So join us on March 12th at 3 p.m. And we had such a wonderful time talking to Margot about the difference between youth, transition age youth, and adult systems navigation that we decided to have a bonus office hour. We're going to have a special event on April 2nd at 3 p.m. where we're going to just talk about what it looks like when you're navigating systems with families of transition age youth and adults. So join us for that as well, and we'll get a registration out for that event too. But you can go ahead and register for the 12th at the same link where you registered for today's events. Like Akia mentioned, reach out to her or Anna or anyone else at NAFSTAC if you have any questions. We will be sending a follow-up email with all of this, all these slides, as well as putting in a little more information about the ABLE accounts. And we will also be sharing an infographic with you that has some more resources to help you share resources and natural supports with families. So reach out to us and feel free to always go to nafstac.org to submit a TA request if you need something that's a little bit more personalized. Before you leave, you can pull out your phone to snap a picture of this QR code to get to the feedback survey, but it will also open up automatically when you click exit here. So go ahead and give us some feedback. It really does count. It helps us show SAMHSA how valuable these events are. So Lachelle has also put the link in the chat. So please do give us your honest feedback, and we hope to see you again next month right here.
Yes, and thank you, Akira and Anna. We really appreciate your time and picking your brain today. So thank you very, very much. And thank you, everyone. And March is going to be a great and exciting office hours for all family peer specialists. And remember, you can use the certificate of attendance as your hours towards certification. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
I will keep this Zoom open for a few minutes so we could all exit on your own. If you exit on your own, you're taken to the survey and you don't have to do anything else. If you do accidentally miss being taken to the survey, we have the link here and it will also be sent in a follow-up email. And thank you for filling out those surveys in advance. We really need it.
How do you get this